Okay, I've come to a conclusion and I'm gonna get straight into it. This has got to go. So I made a series of videos using the Roland P-6 and I expressed how much I enjoy this thing, and I still feel the same way. I still feel that this is a good device. I like the rechargeable battery. I like the implementation of the samples, the sampling functionality. Even the built-in sounds that came with it were pretty decent. I ended up taking them off and using my own, as you guys saw. But what's been going on with me lately is that I've been editing the video for my skate brand, Collage Skateboards. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I just started, and follow us on Instagram. Do everything. Buy a deck. Help us. Being a small business isn't easy. And in the process of editing that video and also filming last tricks of my own for the video and going out and filming my writers, the people who I sponsor, for their last clips, I kind of neglected making music. And so this thing was sitting and collecting dust. Now, I did make one track on the MPC One Plus. I actually made a second track on the MPC One Plus that was fun. And all the while this was sitting there on top of my more tube engine, just collecting dust. I didn't touch it, and I didn't have the urge to touch it, especially once I made that track on the MPC One Plus. Yes, it takes a little bit more for me to pull out the MPC, set it up, get going, and make music. However, for what I gain over what I lose with this, it's not a bad trade-off. The one thing about this that just made it more difficult to use is just the screen with 3 characters, right? And now for some of you guys, that's not really an issue, because you might have grown up with samplers. You might have been like, learned making music with samplers, right? But that's not me. I'm first and foremost like a guitar and bass player. And so I grew up using obviously 4-track tape recorders and digital recorders where the functionality is very different from your average sampler, right? I'm not one who's like typically just looping things and pulling in a sample and affecting that sample. I'm trying to make my own guitar sounds with my fingers, maybe put some effects on those, layer that stuff, add some vocals, that type of thing. So learning this type of workflow is always a little bit more of a hassle for me. Also, I don't use step sequencers. I hate step sequencers. I'll just go ahead and say it. I think it's so unmusical, the step sequencer, just making music that way in general. And so those are not unique issues to this device. It's just about the way that I enjoy making music, and I did enjoy some of the stuff I made on this, and that's not what made me decide that it has to go. So I'm gonna just cut to the chase. I was out with my wife. She was going to a store to pick something up, and the owner of the store, I guess, was late opening the store that day, so there was just a queue of people in front of her, and she ended up having to wait in line. And I first went in with her, and then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to kick it in here. I think I had to go outside and take a phone call, and then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to wait in the car. Don't feel like being in this store with all these people. And in the car, I was watching YouTube videos, got bored with that, and I pulled out Koala Sampler on my phone. And I ended up creating, I will play the actual song for you guys. I'll insert it here. Koala Sampler. And then I was so impressed with what I was able to get on my phone that I then used these effects here, which if you know anything about Koala Sampler, there's all these effects that you can add to your project. You can record it as a song and export it, which I did. That's what I just played for you guys, is the exported song, gone through these effects. In some cases, I've even used Logic Pro for iPad or Beatmaker 3, and I've opened up Koala Sampler or Koala Effects, which is just the effects section, as an AUV3, and then set up where one channel, so one track, so let's say audio track 1 is the audio source for audio track 2, and I'll place an instance of Koala Effects on audio track 1 and record myself affecting it into track 2. That way I get those effects recorded in with Beatmaker 3, and it's a little easier to do that than sometimes recording the track on Beatmaker in Koala Sampler. But what I actually did in Koala Sampler is it's got these little sections of a song. So right here, that's just drums. And if I tap here, drums and a little bit of bass. A more intricate bass pattern. Here's my synth pattern. No bass. Synth and bass. And here's different versions that I made to make breakdowns. So what I did is I recorded all that into another section, and here's the entire project now. Just kind of resampled the whole thing. This doesn't have any of the effects on it, and I affected this. So I was able to do all of this with Koala Sampler. And now the way I set everything up is I have all my samples here. They all have effects on them. There's effects that I added to all of those. And I was able to create an entire project that feels finished. There's a mixer in here. I was able to compress. I was able to EQ to affect the whole project. I was able to, in the mixer, I put the drums on one bus. I put the synth on one bus. I put the bass on one bus. Added saturation and compression to the bass. I was able to add EQ and compression to the drums. I was able to add, I think, a phaser and a bunch of other effects to just that keyboard track and get something that sounded amazing. And it's got this visual interface that's really easy to use. It's actually similar to another Roland product from what I've heard, the SP404 Mark II. I've never used it. I still plan on picking one of those up and checking it out. But yeah, it just made me think that I don't need this anymore. And that as long as this sits here, it's just gonna collect dust. That's not a knock on this product. I actually really like it. However, having an MPC One Plus, having Koala Sampler, and having Beatmaker 3, and having Logic on my iPad, there's just no place for this in my musical life, and it's just gonna collect dust. So I'll be selling it off. I did have some good times with it, but there's just so much. I picked up this, which is called Wavebox, recently, and this is actually where I crafted a drum loop to put on the P6 for one of the last videos that I made. And yeah, Wavebox is crazy. I can do similar thing. I can pull in audio. So that track that I created in Koala Sampler, I can pull into this. And I believe this even uses plugins as well. This is like a $5 app on the phone. I know it's on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android. I don't use Android. But there's got to be stuff on Android, unless it's like it was with video editing software. When I briefly tried to switch over to Android, I do most of my editing in LumaFusion. I have an Adobe subscription, but I'm just so used to LumaFusion that I never use Adobe's editing software. Same with Photoshop. I always use Procreate or Affinity because I had those first, and I have a workflow developed with them. But yeah, when I tried to switch to Android, there was no comparable video editing program on the phone, and I edit a lot of my stuff on the phone. But then, since LumaFusion works on all iOS devices, I transfer it from the phone to the iPad sometimes, from the phone to the laptop sometimes, and I'm able to work seamlessly that way. And it doesn't charge a monthly fee. I think it's like $30 for LumaFusion. I just paid for like some upgrade that was $20, and that was well worth it. It really helps with my keyframing, and like when you're editing skateboarding, there's like speed ramping that you want to do, and I used to have to do it by like chopping the video here and then make another chop here and another chop there, and then this section I would go 25% speed, I would go 75% speed in this one, 50% in this one, back to 75, and then the rest of the clip would be normal. Well, now I don't have to make the chops. I can do the speed ramping effect really easily, and even better because I just create nodes. But that's completely off the topic of music. That's just why I use iOS instead of Android. Everything that I've ever tried to use on Android is very clunky as well. When I had the Sony A7 III, I still have a Samsung Galaxy whatever, and I would use it as a monitor for before I upgraded my camera, and even that was clunky. I was not a fan of the way Android works. And I'm not, I don't have as much time as some of you guys might have a lot of time to fuss with finicky crap, but like, I own a skate company, I teach about 20 clients a week, I manage an apartment complex, have a relationship, and all this other stuff to do. I'm not trying to be fighting with a phone just because I feel like it's more customizable. I like stuff that just works so I can get on with my day. I'm making YouTube videos for music, making YouTube videos for skateboarding, filming people. Like, I don't have time to fuss around with finicky crap. And that's kind of what's going on with this. It's like, it's fun when I commit to it, but there are drawbacks. Whereas this, I was in a car, Koala Sampler, I was in a car, and I made a song. I made a 2.5-minute song that has different parts and has ring modulation on parts and delay in parts and all kinds of effects in parts. And so I just have to realize that while I had some fun with this, it's not a device that necessarily works for my situation. And so to keep it would be foolish. That's all. On another note, I picked up this bad boy. And this is the Behringer Spring Reverberation 646. It is a clone of a Grampian Spring Reverb box. I have been using it to play guitar through. It sounds freaking amazing. Spring Reverb is awesome. And I'll be making a video on it soon. Because this thing's rad and it's cheap. It's like $199. Now, I bought this back in June and I didn't get it until a few days ago because I guess they all sold out when Behringer first made them. And then I had a mix-up with Alto Music where I bought it, where I was actually requesting my money back because I was told that I would have it in... When I bought it, it said they had it in stock. And then after I paid for it, a couple days later, I got a notification about the back order. Then I was told that I would have it during the summer. And then I was told I would have it by October. October comes, I call, it doesn't come. And I'm like, okay, I want a refund. I was told I would have it at the end of the month. And I really wanted to get my hands on one of these because my first amplifier was a Fender Champion, not the modern Champs, like one of the older, from the 90s, one of the Champs, the solid state Champs, and it had Spring Reverb in it, and it was awesome. And then it broke, and the Spring didn't work anymore. But I just remember loving that Spring Reverb, so I really wanted to get my hands on this. So I gave them one more chance. The end of October came, I didn't have it. the middle of November, November 15th comes, I call, the dude's like, oh yeah, we've had that. I don't know why yours didn't ship out. I'll ship it out today. Over the weekend, I get no notification. Now I'm pissed and I call in again. Finally, a dude got it shipped to me right away, and now I have it. I've been playing it. It's amazing. I'm going to make a video on this because Pete Townsend from The Who used it. It was also used in some reggae, like not reggae, but dub productions. And it has a preamp, and you can overload this preamp and get some really cool sounds. So first I was playing it through the Orange Terror stamp, and I had this in the effects loop, and that was pretty cool. But the way I've been running it now, I have the Moore tube engine, which is a 20 watt tube power amp. Just a clean power amp, like the cleanest sound ever. I made a video talking about it before, using it with my different pedals. So I use this as the preamp and the reverb into that tube power amp section, and it is amazing. I also made a specific patch just for this on my HX Stomp, and that's amazing. So I'll be making a full video on that coming up. And that's about all I got. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. I'm gonna end this by playing some guitar through this and the Moore tube engine. Okay, real quick, this is the setup. So I have my Gretsch going into the Behringer reverberation tank, which is going out into the Moore tube engine here, and I'm overloading the preamp. So this is the aux channel. And let's hear it with the reverb. Cool. Let's mess with it a little bit more. And then you can get real unruly if you want. I like it about here, but between 2 and 3. So yeah, this is no... That's just with the guitar turned up. So I'll play you guys out. So yeah, that's what it sounds like. Sounds pretty freaking cool to me. Be on the lookout for a full video on the reverb tank. Obviously I just scratched the surface of what it could do right now, but when you put other effects through it, like it's just amazing. It just, nothing compares. Like I have a lot of digital reverb emulations, as we all do who play guitar and make music in general, and none of them compare. I'm really looking forward to using this as an insert and doing a little bit of mixing with it, or going through this into the cassette, like maybe for that intro track that I played you guys that I made in Koala Sampler for the video. Maybe I'll go through the reverb and see how it sounds, processing everything through this. I love how you can blend the aux channel, which is your input channel, and the reverb channel. You can either back off the aux channel and have more reverb. You can, whatever combination you feel free to use. What do you guys think about just kind of devices like this, like the P6? Like, I know it was on an episode of Bad Gear. I love Bad Gear. I don't know if all of you guys are watching it, but I would imagine if you're in this YouTube kind of music making space, gear space, you're probably watching Bad Gear. But thank you for watching this.